Sanbatskano. I'm Peter Bittner. You're watching Talk With Me. Sanbatskano. Hello, and welcome to Talk With Me. I'm your host, Peter Bittner. Today's guest is U.Anu Urunchimik, classical pianist, virtuosi, and globetrotter. U.Anu Urunchimik is an award-winning concert pianist who's performed in Asia, Europe, and North America. An alumna of the Mongolian Music and Dance College, she's a recipient of the National Best Student of the Year Award. U.Anu received her bachelor's in piano performance and theater from the prestigious New York University in the United States. She's currently studying for her master's in music at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. U.Anu visited Mongolia for her first performance on her All About Beethoven project, in which she will play all 5 of Beethoven's concertos with different symphonies in the US and Mongolia. Thanks so much for being on the show today, U.Anu.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, what brings you back into town? I understand right now you're studying for your master's in music in the United States.
Yes. So I just came back to Mongolia last week.
Okay.
My purpose of my trip is to do a performance of Beethoven Third Concerto with the Mongolian Philharmonic Orchestra.
Fantastic. Okay. And so, is that part of your master's project, or is it a separate event? Tell me more.
This is not part of my master's program. Okay. For my master's program, I only have to do one recital at the end of my program. This is just for me as a young classical pianist. Okay. This is my first big project as a pianist. I actually got the idea of this project from a Russian pianist called Alexander Kobrin. He's very famous right now. I actually listened to his All About Mozart project. So I got an idea from him, and then I say, why not All About Beethoven, because Beethoven is my favorite composer, and then I just started my project.
That's great. So it'll be a series of concerts then?
Yes, this is the first one. I wanted to start my project with the Mongolian Philharmonic because this is where my home is, and after that there are 4 other concerts. Is going to be in the U.S. with the 4 different orchestras.
Wow. So which pieces or movements will you play then?
Yeah, so Beethoven wrote a total of 5 piano concertos.
Okay.
So I'm starting with the Mongolian Philharmonic with the Third Concerto. Okay. And then I'm gonna decide which concerto I'm gonna play with which orchestra. So yeah.
Okay. So why start with number 3? Why not start with number 1? Is there any logic there?
Yes. Like musicologists say that the Third Concerto of Beethoven is where he started. You know, he is a classical composer from the classical era, but he also was already writing in a romantic style at the time. So although he was a classical composer, he opened the romantic era with this concerto. So that's what musicologists say, and then you can totally hear the romantic era style in like the elements in the concerto. So that's why I chose this concerto for my beginning of my project.
That's wonderful. So it must mean a lot to start off that big project here in your hometown. Yeah, and I should mention right now, instead of our studio today, we're at the Mongolian Music and Dance College, where you spent so much of your upbringing and your training. And what does it feel like to be back here?
It's wonderful. I love this school. You know, like I spent basically my whole life before I moved to the U.S. So it's all this like nostalgic memories coming back to me right now. This is like my second home to me, so it's wonderful, yeah.
That's fantastic. So how many years were you training here? When did you start playing piano classically?
I started playing piano at the age of 4, and then I entered the Mongolian Music and Dance College at the age of 5. And then I graduated in 2012 when I was 16 years old, and then I moved to US.
Wow. And so during that period, yeah, while you were a student here, what did your day look like? You know, what was your routine? And, you know, did you prepare any differently from your peers? Clearly, you've distinguished yourself. You won international awards. You went to prestigious New York University to study music, piano, of course. So, you know, what did you, do here during your time in this place that really led to your success? Yeah,
it was definitely very different than any other kids who don't learn, who don't study music. You know, like I didn't have any like playground time, you know. Everyone at that age wants to go outside, you know, play with their peers and have like a nice time. But we didn't have that time. So we're just always practicing at home. Until like the 4th grade, we always have to practice at home. We have a piano at home. But starting since like 5th grade, all the way up until we graduate, we usually practice at the school, in the studios, and then, you know, fight with other peers, like who gets the time now, you know, who has to practice now, or, yeah, it was, so like basically I spent all of my time, like starting from 8 o'clock in the morning until like 9 p.m. just here at school practicing, going to classes, yeah.
So it would be accurate to say piano is your life.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and you enjoy it that way, it seems.
I really enjoyed it, and people ask me like, oh, so you've been studying since like 4, and then you don't know what life is without music. Like, aren't you getting bored, you know, from music? Like, do you want to try other things, you know? And I say like, no, I don't get bored of music, and I actually don't want to try anything else. Yeah.
Wow. So how don't you get bored? What's your secret to, you know, continuing to stay invested and involved and clearly so motivated in this profession?
Although I've been like playing piano now almost 18 years, I think that I'm like learning only like 2 out of like 10 points, you know, because there's so much that I don't know in the not only piano world, but the classical music world. There's so many things that I don't know yet. And I actually, in the future, I actually want to try like some jazz and bringing like kind of modern music with the classical music involved.
Oh, interesting. So have you played jazz or other genres on the piano before?
Yes, on the piano, but not as solo pieces. When I was in NYU, I was in part of the band and also like the orchestra program. So I was like the band pianist. So we would have like some kind of like modern or jazz concert series. Then I played in those and I really enjoyed it. So maybe I will try that route soon in the future.
That's great. And so have your parents or your instructors here influenced, I guess, your choice of genre? I mean, were there any other options besides classical piano when you were enrolling here?
No, not in the music and dance college in Mongolia. It was only classical, and then it was all the training, the musical training was from Russia, of course. All of the professors went to Russian conservatories, so it was like very highly based on classical music training. So yeah, I didn't have that opportunity here, but I had it in America, so.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful. So when you first started here then, whose decision was it to enroll you in this school? Is your family in this field, in this profession?
Yeah, actually, when I was at the age of 4, my older sister, who was 2 years older than me, she got accepted into the school, and then she was also started playing piano. And then I remember that time that my mom bought a piano for her at home to practice, of course, and that I would want to touch, you know, like young, 4 years old. I want to touch, my sister won't allow me, like, oh, it's my piano, you can't touch it, you know. And then when she goes to school, I secretly play the piano. And then my mom noticed me that I was so into piano. So she asked me, like, do you like the piano? And I said, I love it. So she's like, okay, then let's go. Let's check you out. Like, so I came here, and then a couple of teachers, you know, tested me for oral skills, like rhythms and piano skills.
Got it.
Yeah, and that's how I got into the school.
Wow. So there's an exam at the beginning as well. And it
Yes,
seems
there
pretty
is.
serious. Yeah.
It is pretty serious. They check, everything. Like even like 4 years old, like you don't really know at the age of 4, but they have like series of tactics to do. Like they clap, and then you have to clap it back.
Okay.
So they will check like, oh, does this child have a rhythm sense?
Wow.
And also they check hand. But interestingly, my hand is very small. Yeah, but they want to have like pianists who have like bigger hands.
Okay.
But mine is like surprisingly small, and everyone will see, and then they say, "Oh, how are you pianists? You have very small hands." But I think it's more of like the hand span.
Okay.
Like if you look at my hand, it's short. The fingers are short.
Nice.
Yeah, but
Okay.
the
Wow.
span
Your span
is
is
big.
even bigger than mine, I
Yeah.
think. Okay. So that's your secret.
That's my secret.
Okay.
But people just see like, oh, you have short fingers, But I have bigger spans.
Got it. Okay. So that's God-given then. That's luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like through your experience here in the school, they prepared you very rigorously for the next step, right? NYU. So tell me about the process of applying and the process really of transitioning into your life in the United States as a music student there.
So in 2010, I went to San Jose, California to do a competition there. That was my first time in America, and I just loved it. Other times, I usually used to go to Europe to do competitions. But in America, it was just totally different. All the competition and like the kids who were playing the piano, they were just such another level.
Really?
Yes, they were just so prepared, and then it was just such different atmosphere. So that's when I said to myself, like, I really want to study in America. So I came back home, and I was like, Mom, I want to go study in America for my bachelorette. So I started applying to schools my end of high school year, and then I found NYU, and I just loved the program from the website, and then I started applying. But that time was very hard for me because like they don't teach you here in Mongolia how to apply for schools.
Right.
So different from Mongolian education system. So I went to the Center for study abroad center, and then they helped me to how to apply, what documents that I need to collect. Yeah.
Wow. So that's a separate organization outside your school?
Outside my school, yes.
Okay. Okay. And so who runs that? Do you remember?
I actually don't. Yeah.
I'm curious. So, and you were clearly studying English and preparing. Was that also outside of your everyday studies here?
Yeah, I actually started going to the JET School of English.
I see. Okay.
To get a TOEFL, IBT TOEFL score. That test was so hard. Like I was not prepared for that. Yeah.
Clearly, it worked out. And
yeah.
Your English is fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So, what was it like arriving onto campus for the first time at NYU, settling in, saying, I'm here, I'm in the States, I'm studying music, exactly what I want to do, and what were your first impressions on campus?
It was just unbelievable, and then also very scary at the same time. I was only like 17 years old, and I was alone. No one from my family could come with me. So I just arrived, and the orientation people from NYU when it came to pick me up from the airport, and then brought me to the campus. There's not really such campus in NYU, you know.
Right.
It's just right in the center of the city
Sure.
in Manhattan. So it was scary, but it was also so exciting at the same time, because I used to see those like university life in the movies, in American movies,
Right.
and I always wondered what it's like. And then, but I was there, so it was very wonderful.
So New York City was your campus, essentially. It was your
It
playground.
was, yes.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Maybe it feels like that. Does it feel like home now?
Yes, it does, actually.
And so during your time at NYU, you know, what really stands out when you look back as memorable kind of ways that you pushed yourself to the next level and yeah, really carried yourself forward into, you know, this globe-trotting, yeah, pianist that you are today?
Yeah, in general, like the American music education system is so different than Mongolian. Here in the Music and Dance College in Mongolia, it is very, very good. It's very prestigious, and then they start teaching young kids in the conservatory technique. But when I went to America, it was so different, because they expect you to be independent. That's like the biggest difference from Mongolian education system, I think. Because the first time I went to my piano lesson at NYU, and he just expected me to like, okay, play, the piano is yours. And then I was like, what should I play?
Right.
And then he's like, what did you prepare for me? But at the beginning, in Music and Dance College, it was the contrary, you know, and then the teacher would give you the repertoire, and then you have time to prepare before the first lesson. And then, but at NYU, it was just like, you know, okay, go ahead. You should have been prepared before coming to the first lesson. So they always expect you to be very independent. So that is the biggest difference.
Wow.
And I think that's one of the big things that I learned from NYU, from the American music system.
So that's a big cultural difference too, it seems,
Yes.
like this American value of independence, right? Were there other ways in which you confronted some of these cultural differences and barriers during your time at NYU, either in your program or outside of them?
Yeah, there's so many of them. You know, for registering for classes, and you know, you do it online on the website, and you always have to check your student portal. We don't have that thing in Mongolia, so it is just all new thing for me. So I always used to ask my friends. First semester, I didn't know what was happening, and they would just talk about, oh, you know, like the midterm exams are coming up, and I'm just like, what are those? You know, I don't know midterm exams. And then the finals were such a big thing. I just didn't know. And then people were going crazy. Oh, it's finals week. You know, like people studying 24/7 in the library. And then I didn't have that experience in Mongolia. You know, other thing is that when I was in the music and dance college in Mongolia, it was mostly the performance based. So like your music lessons were the most important thing, and then the other classes were not as important. So we didn't really used to pay attention to the other classes, like oh, piano is my thing or violin is my thing, you know. But in America, it's different. You're in a university, you have to be focused on every single thing, every single classes that you're in. Even though you're a musician, you still have to take math, or you know, you still have to get A for that class. So you just have to manage your time and then do well on all of those things.
Right. Wow. And while you were a student here, I should add, you won several major awards, both at the city of Ulaanbaatar level as well as the national level for best students. So that's an amazing achievement and accomplishment. And it's within this system here that seems very different from the United States. And so you didn't have any midterms, you didn't have any finals. You know, how were you assessed to be the best student then? What was the way in which you were graded? Was it all performance-based, or how did that work?
Yeah, those awards were all based on my performances and doing all the competitions internationally. I started doing international competitions when I was at the age of 7. I went to Paris, France for the first time, and then I got my first prize there. I was like very young, and then I didn't even speak the language of of French. And then I remember that moment, like all the contestants were on the stage, and then the lady read U.Anu, like that French accent, and I didn't even know. But my teacher was like, "Anu, she's calling your name." And so that's when I knew that I got the second prize. That was like my biggest accomplishment at the time. Since then, I started going to lots of other international piano competitions in Spain. Mostly I used to do lots of them in France, and that's why I got awarded with the Ulaanbaatar City Best Student in 2010, also Best Student of Mongolia in 2009 from the President of Mongolia.
Wow, what was that like? I mean, what was that day like receiving that award?
It was so great. I was just at school here, just going to classes, and then the assistant of the director of the school called me from class and like, "Oh, the director wants to see you." And I was actually very scared, like, what have I done,
Uh-oh, you're in trouble.
Yes, I thought I was like, oh, I'm in trouble, but they called me, and my mom was there, and he told me that I got awarded with the Best Student of Mongolia. So that was very, very wonderful moment.
Wow.
And I remember that day to receive that award, we all went to the Parliament building, and then there were lots of other students as well. It was just a wonderful moment.
I'm sure. Wow. And I should say that was one of many awards that you've won. You mentioned earlier some of these international piano competitions that you've participated in Paris, in Spain, in the United States. So which ones are you most proud of so far? I'm sure there'll be more competitions in your future, I assume.
Yeah. The very first one, of course, is very memorable. And then there's another one in 2009. It was in Mongolia. But the person who won the competition got awarded with playing with the orchestra, the school orchestra.
Wow.
So I was that person. So that was my first experience playing with the orchestra. So that was just very amazing to have an opportunity to play with the orchestra. And then I was still very young at the time. So that's another memorable, significant competition for me. And other ones most proud of, I think it's the ones in the United States while I was studying at NYU. Because all the other ones were very good in competitions, but it was for youth, for young pianists. But these competitions that I did while I was at NYU was like undergrad level, like actual serious piano competitions. And then the one I got was 2016, the NYU Concerto and Aria competition. So that's the one I'm most proud of, because I not only competed with piano students, I also competed with every other musicians, the trumpeters, the woodwind people, and even singers. So, and they choose only 5 winners. So I was one of them.
That's amazing.
And then I got the opportunity to play with the orchestra as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. So you've had a lot of opportunities to practice and to play with orchestras that some of your peers along the way haven't had. Do you think that gives you an advantage? Is that why you feel so prepared right now to embark on your first major project with all these different symphonies?
Yeah, I think so. I think start playing with orchestras from a young age, also doing lots of competitions at the young age really helped me. and it taught me how to be an actual performer on stage. So I basically got on stage at the age of 7, so I know how to handle audience, and I know how to manage my stage fright. So I think that gives me an advantage of becoming a better performer in the future.
So do you still get stage fright? Is that something that every performer deals with?
I do. I think stage fright should be there for a performer. I think the performer, even though the performer is very well prepared, they should still have that nervous feeling, because that gives, in my opinion, I think if you are not at all nervous, that means you're not really caring about the performance that much. So I think being nervous is a good thing, but right level. You know, if you're very, very nervous, of course, you cannot play, but...
Right. Have you had any of those moments along the way?
Of course.
Yeah.
There are a few. Like, I don't even want to think about that moments, you know, even though I'm so prepared that I just get on stage and I just freeze. Those moments that happened, yeah.
Happened to me when I was taking piano lessons at not nearly as prestigious as, a school as this. But yeah, I remember that feeling. And so that first time, how did you bounce back when you had one of those moments? You know, how did you recover and gain your composure?
Of course, right after the concert, I was just feeling so bad and I cried. But my teachers are telling me that it's just a part of the experience. You know, you learn from this experience. You know, it just happens to every single artist. So they just gave me a motivation, and they said that it should motivate you more in the future. And I thought about all those advices that they gave me, and then I just got back on my feet.
That's fantastic. So what are your future plans? What do you hope to accomplish in the next year or two or beyond after this series, this All About Beethoven project is completed? My
future goal as a performer is to become a classical concert pianist. But of course, it's so hard to achieve that because there's so many good pianists out there and who are trying to do the same thing as me. So I will, of course, try to do that. I have to do lots of very prestigious international piano competitions, or I have to find some unique way to advertise myself. But other than that, I would really like to teach in a university level. That's why I want to get my doctorate degree after my master's. But I think I will take 1 year break after my master's, and then I would pursue doctorate degree.
So have you had experience teaching while studying at Southern Methodist University?
Yes, I am actually the teaching assistant there. So I teach non-music majors, and also I have a part-time job in an academy called Dallas Academy of Music and Performing Arts. It's very close to SME campus, which is great for me. So I have about like 10 students there. So I think I'm gonna continue working there after my master's for 1 year, and then I will go for my doctorate.
Great. And what do you enjoy most about teaching?
Teaching kids is very rewarding because they get so excited when they achieve something, and then when they could play a whole song, they get very, very excited. So to see that happiness gives me a joy to teach. Yeah.
What are the tips that you give students when they're first starting? You have a first lesson. How do you really encourage someone? How would you give me advice if I tried to relearn piano, which I stopped playing, at age 12, for example?
So I taught like kids from age of 3 all the way until like adult students. So my teaching philosophy is to find the unique talent of each single student, because all the students are not going to be the same. So you have to choose your teaching style based on every single student. So I just, when they first come into the lesson, I always ask them why they chose to play the piano from all the instruments. What, what made them to have piano lessons. And then I also ask them, like, do you want to do classical, or do you want to just even do like Frozen, like the nice kid songs. And then I'm open to like any style music for kids.
Do you have any, I guess, guilty pleasures for things that you do like to play that are not kind of part of your studies or your concert schedule or tour?
Yeah, I just like I played the Greek piano concerto in 2016, but since then, like when I want to have like a little break from like practicing my actual music for the concert, I just start playing that concerto for fun. So I think that's the thing, but I don't really play other like movie songs or anything. Yeah.
Your break from concertos is concertos.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks so much for joining us today, Anu.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So that was Anu Uranchimik, classical pianist, virtuosi, and globetrotter. We're so grateful that you're back in Mongolia now, and we wish you the best of luck with your performance.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like a very exciting project. I hope it goes really well.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So that does it for this episode of Talk With Me. I'm your host, Peter Bittner. You can connect with us on Facebook at Talk With Me, Star TV Mongolia. You can also watch this episode and many others on our YouTube channel, Star TV HD. Thanks for joining us there. We hope to see you next time for the next edition of Talk With Me.